Before I'd ever set foot on the Camino, I had done a ton of research, but there were still things that I learned that were unexpected to me on the Camino. And so today I thought I would share with you 5 things I wish I had known before walking the Camino de Santiago. Hi, my name is Jen. I am a 3-time pilgrim and a Catholic mindset coach, and I love to chat with people about lessons from my Camino and how they play out in my everyday life. And I hope that you find something new in the 5 things I'm going to chat about today. The first thing I wish I had known before I walked the Camino is that you will actually get tan lines in really weird places. I am very pale. I do tend to get sunburned fairly easily, and I actually probably didn't wear as much sunscreen as I should have on the Camino, but I had thought about what would happen to my face. I had a hat that covered my neck, and I knew that I was walking west pretty much the whole time, so the sun would always be at my back. That was the problem. I don't like wearing shorts, and it was often really too hot to be wearing pants because I walked in the summer in June, July, and August. And so I had this wonderful pair of capri pants from Eddie Bauer, 2 pairs actually, that I really loved that I wore pretty much every day. And when you wear capri pants every day for 42 days and the sun is constantly at your back, you get some really, really serious tan lines. And so when I got back from my Camino in 2011, I, no joke, had tan lines across the middle of my calf for almost a year. Just throwing that out there as something that you might want to consider. People talk a lot about sun exposure and using sunscreen, but consider the repercussions about getting tan lines in interesting places. The second thing I wish I had known is how much I actually really enjoyed going to different masses along the Camino. Masses that I went to on the Camino ended up being really profound moments for me of connection to the reasons for the Camino, of the history, of all the pilgrims that have gone before, but also just a real sense of welcoming and prayer from the communities for whom that was their home church. So I would just encourage you, certainly if you're Catholic, but even if you're not Catholic, to participate in at least a few pilgrim masses along the way. I even, on my first Camino, had a Lithuanian couple where the young man was a classically trained organist, and I didn't know that. And we went to mass one day, and at the end of it, he asked the priest if he could play the organ in the church and did this beautiful impromptu musical concert for us. And it was amazing. Like, it can be easy to get into just the rhythms of eat, sleep, walk, repeat. But don't forget those moments of reflection and connection to the broader church, to the pilgrims of the past, and see if you can make it to some pilgrim masses along the way. The third thing I wish I had known is that walking down is actually harder than walking up. I did all of my Camino training in Chicago, which is very flat, and I definitely knew that there were going to be a lot of hills and mountains in my Camino experience. So I had completely mentally prepared for how difficult it would be for me to climb up things. Luckily, I had decided to purchase some hiking poles in Saint Jean. I did not bring them with me. We all know some of the issues with carrying hiking poles on airplanes, but I actually have kept those hiking poles through 3 Caminos now. That's a side story. My hiking poles were really great. They were useful for climbing up, but that first day, I discovered to my somewhat horror that walking down was going to actually be really painful for me if I wasn't careful. That first week on the Camino definitely kind of trains you to figure out your walking pace and what's comfortable, but those hiking poles saved me, as well as the person who showed me that you don't actually have to just walk straight down a hill, particularly when it's steep. You can zigzag back and forth, and that alleviates some stress on your knees. And that was a technique that was super useful. It's not always the uphill slog that's going to be the worst. Sometimes it's the thing that you're worried about. It's what comes after it that can actually be the most difficult. Certainly buy yourself a good pair of hiking poles, although honestly, mine probably cost like 10 or 15 euro and have lasted me through 3 Caminos. So you don't have to spend a lot of money, but definitely get some hiking poles. Lengthen them for going down, shorten them for climbing up, and then have them at your sort of standing height for your regular walking. But I am a huge advocate of hiking poles. The fourth thing I wish I had known before walking the Camino is that rain is not your enemy. I was a little worried about walking in the rain, although I didn't anticipate having to walk in too much of it, again, because I was walking in the summers. But, we're walking through Galicia, and Galicia is a damp place in Spain. What actually happened to me is that I really enjoyed walking in the rain. I was not expecting that. Now, caveat, I did not walk in any torrential downpours. So when I say I was walking in the rain, it was more sort of gentle and steady. I had waterproof boots. I was wearing my pants, and so I didn't get water in my shoes. That's the key. So if you can avoid that, the rest of it, there's really no need to fear the rain. And I think what I appreciated the most about it was it actually let me really just live in the moment. It helped me embrace my phlegmatic self, which is to just sort of accept things, right? I think a lot of times in my regular life, rain is sort of an enemy. It's like, oh, what do I have to do to avoid the rain or to be in it as little as possible? Whereas on the Camino, it was like, okay, I'm walking today and it seems to be raining. So that means I am walking in the rain. And so acceptance of that was really useful of just saying, this is what it is today, and that's going to be fine. Also, as you can tell, I wear glasses, and when you walk in the rain, your glasses get wet and it becomes hard to see. So I actually ended up not wearing my glasses a few days because of the rain, which again, I think contributed to my enjoyment of rainy days as being kind of softer and calmer and quieter. For me, they were literally softer because I couldn't see as well. I found rain peaceful, I think. And there's nothing better than showing up finally at your albergue and like getting out of your wet clothes and taking a fast, warm shower and getting yourself warm and dry. So there's that contrast was also fun. I wish I had known not to be afraid of the rain. And finally, the fifth thing I wish I had known before I walked my Camino is I wish that I had known my temperament. You're going to encounter a lot of different people on the Camino. And so understanding how the temperaments interact, the ways that we can lift each other up or rub each other the wrong way would have given me a little bit more space to give grace to myself and to my fellow pilgrims. So I just kind of wish I had known more about them and had more self-knowledge before I went on the Camino, but also that's kind of why we go on the Caminos to a certain extent, is to get a better sense of who we are and figure that out. Good news, if you don't know your temperament and would like to, you can take my free Camino temperament quiz, which is linked in the description below, and that will give you your result. It'll tell you a little bit about strengths and challenges, tips for the trail that might help you prepare along the way. So I invite you to check that out if you're interested in learning more about your temperament so that you don't have to be like me and not know it before you go on your Camino. So ultimately, there is no perfect way to walk the Camino. There is no right way to walk the Camino. But I hope that these are 5 things that you may not have thought about that give you a little bit more of an option to mentally prepare or physically prepare, or things to bring or not to bring, and just encouragement along the way, right? We all have lessons that we learn, even though there are a bajillion of Camino prep videos and forums and all the information. You can have as much information as possible and you're still going to discover new things, which is part of what makes this exciting. So don't be afraid to learn as much as you can to prepare, but also give yourself the openness to what walking the Camino will actually teach you. If you have walked the Camino before, I'd love to know in the comments what's something that you wish that you had known before you walked. And if you have not yet walked the Camino, I'm curious as to if any of these are new examples of things that you should consider as you are prepping. And wherever you are on the way, I wish you a buen camino.